Hey, what's up? What's up, YouTube fam? Can you guys hear me? I'm jumping on real quick. Feeling super inspired. Just had an amazing live stream chat. And so, hoping that I can catch you because I just wanted to tell you about it. It was so phenomenal. Before I do, tell me if you're listening live, and I'm also going to turn on Facebook. Um, as you all might know, or maybe you don't know, Charlie Parker, the great Charlie Parker, it's his centennial birthday, everybody. And I'm not going to give too much away because I do want to get the rest of the videos on for Facebook and YouTube, but much away because I can you hear me okay? I think there's a few of you watching. I know I'm just jumping in here. I'm probably surprising people. I didn't promote this, but I'm like feeling inspired. So you know what happens. Gotta get on the socials. All right, so let's just turn on some Facebook, Twitch, and get the IG fam happening. How are all of you? What's going on? Hi, Ricardo. I'm going to turn IG on as well. Hi, Jacqueline. Hi, Abukun. Let's get the gram on. Let's get the gram on. All right, Instagram's on. So listen, everybody. I'm jumping on real quick because I'm back to back with about 5 different Zoom sessions and interviews. It's been quite a day, but I'm feeling so inspired right now because I've just ended an unbelievable live stream. It was a recording that all of you, I highly recommend you check it out. It's going to be streaming on 90 Second Wise page on I believe it's on a Saturday. What up, IG? What up, IG fam? How you guys doing? I've been missing all of you. I know it's been a second. I've been trying to get my brain together. I was in Massachusetts all last week filming a really special live stream celebrating the centennial celebration of the 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote. And that was fantastic. The video is now up on YouTube. It was really an exciting live stream because a lot of my stuff was recorded beforehand in Boston and in historical landmarks, specifically the Women's Suffrage Trail. And, you know, Boston's a city rich of history. And so we were celebrating the path to the women's right to vote. And then they had some pre-recorded bits from soloists all around the world. And then the orchestra actually recorded live with myself on Tuesday, and I was the MC for that. That was awesome. But the live stream that I just came off of, guys and gals, it's celebrating the centennial birthday of Charlie Parker. I don't know if you all know, but Charlie Parker would have been 100 years old. Let's give some hearts to the great Charlie Parker. How many musicians do we have in the house? And how many of you know who Charlie Parker is? Because he was absolutely one of my biggest saxophone inspirations for learning the art of jazz and bebop. And my mentors, Frank Morgan, Phil Woods, they were direct proteges of Charlie Parker, specifically Frank, actually. Frank talked about how Charlie Parker was his initial inspiration, and he was the one who told Frank, you got to start on clarinet. And Phil Woods talked about his stories with Parker of when he lent Charlie Parker his horn, and Phil was saying how he thought his horn wasn't playing well, and then Charlie Parker played it, and he said, oh, even the neck strap played well. And so, you guys, you can watch this live stream that I just recorded with some masters. I'm talking Barry Harris. He's 90 years old. Barry Harris played with Charlie Parker. He played with Charlie Parker. He was telling stories of the days he played with Charlie Parker. Unbelievable. I actually got to attend one of Barry Harris's classes in New York years ago. He used to hold like weekly classes. He played with all the greats. Joe Lovano is on that live stream, saxophone icon. I've known Joe for years now, and he played a rendition. We all played live in that. By the way, this is going to be streaming on 90 Second Wise page on Saturday, August 29th. You better watch it. It is some deep stuff in there. I'll send the link. I'll shout that out. So Joe Lovano was in the house. Charles McPherson, unbelievable alto player. Who here knows about Charles McPherson? And believe it or not, Charles McPherson was one of Barry Harris's students. I mean, we had every generation. I was very honored to be a part of it. If you don't know Charles McPherson's playing, everyone, what a sound on the saxophone. Also, if you guys know, do you know that Clint Eastwood movie Bird about Charlie Parker? Charles McPherson was actually the saxophonist who dubbed part of that, playing Charlie Parker's role. So cool. And if you have any Charlie Parker fans, invite them into this live stream, because I'm just riffing. I'm like so high off of this live stream. And I got to meet Charles McPherson at Stanford Jazz residency years ago, and my gosh, what an incredible guy. He laid down some quotes, you guys. He laid down some quotes. I'm saying they're going to become quotes from this past live stream. It was incredible. Antonio Hart was on this live stream. Amazing. And Antonio also had some really great questions for the masters. And Garry Giddens, who is a brilliant journalist, was moderating. So honestly, like, I was freaking out. I'm gonna like add a story later of I just took a screenshot of all of us because I'm like, come on, this is insane. And then for the program, they asked all of us to prepare a piece, a Charlie Parker piece, and we all went around and played our rendition. And after I played Ornithology, Barry Harris said to me some very complimentary things, and I was like, oh my God, here's the legend who played with Charlie Parker. Come on. Freaking out. I got really nervous. It hasn't happened in a while. I got nervous. But I figured I'd get onto this live stream, and I was going to play a little Charlie Parker for all of you. If you do not know Charlie Parker's discography, spend some time not only checking out his discography, but celebrating 100 years of Parker. It's unbelievable to think that he created his discography, everything that we know and study, and he died at the age of his early 30s. He lived and breathed that music. I'm going to just tell you guys, you'll be able to watch this next week, but Charles McPherson had some amazing things to say about Charlie Parker, and I loved how he said he loved Charlie Parker's linear melodic logic, and it was the perfect meld of technique and artistry. I was taking notes as Charles McPherson was saying this because he had such a way of saying it with words, you know. Of course, Charlie Parker had absolutely flawless technique, but it's the heart and the soul, the emotion, the storytelling, the places that he would add vibrato. It's his sound. It's his soul that's in the music, and that is what is so captivating. I listened to Charlie Parker with strings on repeat every night. I was learning the saxophone, right? Like, if you got some Charlie Parker comments, yes, I'm seeing it. Jack Quinn saying, I love Charlie Parker. Robert saying the icon of bebop. Yes, I fell asleep listening to Charlie Parker with strings, which I think at the time was a very commercial release with him. But God, it was just in my brain. And it wasn't just the incredible awe of his technique. It was how beautiful. He's so lyrical, so melodic. And so this session was a bit of a listening session too. And it was so cool, man. I'm sitting there watching Joe Lovano's face, listening to Charlie Parker. I'm sitting there watching Barry Harris, who's like, oh yeah. And then he starts to play the piano along with the recording. And then he starts telling us about stories, and he starts talking about how, you know, back when they were young, and he's like, music was, you want to play music to make people dance. And then he's like, these young kids now, they're not even dressing up to play the concerts. He's like, we got out there with suits. Charlie Parker was a gorgeous man, a confident man. He came out in a suit. He's like, I mean, so many amazing points from the master himself, right? Absolute legend. I'm reading you, Germa. So, and then I love this line. just like I teach all of my students to take notes at the moment, I was like writing down notes because I really think these are like timeless quotes that Charles McPherson he said, Charlie Parker was like a drunk man walking a tightrope that never falls. He was saying that about his playing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so brilliant. What a great poetic line. And so I played a little ornithology. I figured I'd just jump on and play a little bit for all of you as I'm in the spirit of celebrating the great Charlie Parker. How many of you know this tune? This is based upon that great standard, How High the Moon. And I used to play this song quite a bit with my mentor, the late, great Phil Woods. And I'd often forget to go to the G minor chord. And I'd be playing it with Phil. And Phil would look over at me and go, minor, minor. And so I told that story. And I got nervous, but I played it. And I did hit the minor chord. And I love, speaking of a great standard, How High the Moon, Ella Fitzgerald, listened to her recording a million times. So this was the line that was written on top of How High the Moon, ornithology. Ornithology. We are celebrating the centennial birthday of Charlie Parker. I don't know if you all realize, but there's so many centennial birthdays going on. I mean, just a couple days ago, I was celebrating the centennial birthday of the 19th Amendment in a very special live stream concert, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it's now on YouTube. You can check out the Landmarks Orchestra and myself, and it was an incredible program, and we had soloists from all around the world. The program consisted of all female composers and just celebrated some fantastic female musical voices. I was so honored to be the MC for that and to perform my piece, including She's the First, which was actually the debut orchestral arrangement of that. And they ended up naming the whole program She's the First. And now the centennial birthday of Charlie Parker. So if y'all are just joining, I'm just hopping on for a real quick live stream to express how giddy I was to be a part of this really special live stream celebrating Charlie Parker with myself, Joe Lovano, Antonio Hart, the master Barry Harris, who played with Charlie Parker himself, and Garry Giddens, and Charles McPherson. It was cool, man. And then Charles McPherson was talking about his time with Clint Eastwood when he was playing Bird's part on Clint Eastwood's movie. Come on. So, you know, I'll put the link to all of that right now. I was just the one question that I really wanted to ask these masters, right? Because Antonio was asking all these questions and literally it could have gone on for hours. They had to cut us off, which I was heartbroken because that was like the most insane music lesson right there. And also brought up so many memories of my times with my mentors, Lee Konitz, Phil Woods, and Frank Morgan. And the question I wanted to ask after Antonio asked a great question about, you know, Barry Harris, can you tell us about the times that you were living in and what was, you know, the political climate and how would that affect Charlie Parker and his life? And can you tell us about the drugs that he was taking and why he had started taking that? And like, there's nothing so powerful as hearing it straight from the source, right? Like we have journalists, we have books, we have so much stuff about Parker, but like Barry Harris was there saying, I knew him. He was this most incredible man. And to hear him talking about, you know, what times were like when he was playing music with all his friends. They're talking about musical jazz legends. I mean, it was amazing. Hear it straight from the source. That was incredible. Antonio, are you on right now? Is that you? I see it, a heart underscore Antonio. If that's you, thank you so much for your questions. It was amazing. I really wanted to follow up with some questions of like, all right, so Charles McPherson had just so beautifully put into words what he loves about Charlie Parker's playing so much. You know, he talked about the drunk man walking a tightrope that never falls. Hey, oh my God, that was so great. It was such a pleasure and honor being on with all of you. Y'all, Antonio Hart is on Instagram right now. Can we give him some love and hearts? And I just loved your question so much. And I wanted to follow up with a question of, you know, there's so many young players today and, you know, I'm still eating, breathing, loving Charlie Parker's music every day, but I'm talking about for developing players who go to, say, the Omnibook, which is like a saxophone Bible, right, to learn about bebop. But they might go to the Omnibook and never listen to Charlie Parker's music. You know, I think sometimes I've been noticing how so many people are looking at music and saxophone as such a technical thing. And it's very important to develop technique, of course. And I'm teaching technique to my students. I'm trying to hone in my craft more and more. But the heart and soul of what makes Charlie Parker so brilliant and these timeless artists is what they give in their heart and the storytelling that they present in every single note, you know. And so my question was going to be, what advice would they give young musicians who are learning right now, learning bebop, learning vocabulary, and how can a young person learn to embody that heart, that soul, that passion while they're developing, while they're learning technique? You know, because as I think Charles McPherson, correct me if I'm wrong, Antonio, but Charles McPherson was saying anybody could work up to that level of technique, you know, kind of like maybe in a way an athlete would do it. But it's if you're just doing that, you're just going through the motions and playing insane technique, you know, that's not the same as telling a story from your soul, from your life. Charlie Parker's playing his life, you know, and how could a 20-something-year-old play all his life like that? Well, he lived a whole lot of life with everything he was going through at that time, which was really cool to hear Barry Harris riff on. Great question from Antonio. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'd follow up on, just because, you know, I'm very close to a lot of you who are watching, who are saxophonists, who are developing, right? And I'm teaching a lot of you about technique, about phrasing. But it's one thing to come out of my mouth. It's another to literally listen to Charlie Parker play it, right? And it's another to do a listening exercise of when you're actively listening and then you're learning the Charlie Parker solos right there on the spot. And I spent 6 months with my teacher working on confirmation. 6 months, every day, 4 bars at a time, you know, and literally marking up that book with every ghost mode and articulation and going back and rewinding and pressing play and rewinding like a crazy person, just trying to get as close to his sound as I possibly could. I feel really, really lucky that I've had this amazing time with my mentors, Phil Woods, Frank Morgan, who are, much closer to the Charlie Parker camp. Lee Konitz, I learned so much from, but he was coming from a very different place, actually from a non-bebop place with his time with Tristano. And, Lee Konitz wouldn't play a blues. He comes from a very different space. So I'd have all these very interesting conversations, and I'm learning from all of them. And, when I learned from them, especially with Frank Morgan, right, just such a brilliant, brilliant saxophonist. If you don't know his work, please, check him out on YouTube. Also, there's an amazing documentary made about him that I'm in, George Cables, Ron Carter, Smitty Smith. It was executive produced by the best-selling author Michael Connolly. Incredible cast, directed by N.C. Hyken. That's an amazing documentary, and you might not know Frank Morgan's name because he spent 30 years in and out of San Quentin prison due to drugs, a habit that he picked up after literally idolizing Charlie Parker, meeting him, and then doing the same things as Charlie Parker was doing. Unfortunately, it cost him a lot of time in prison, and he was in and out making amazing recordings back in prison, habit, getting out of it. But I spent the last 6 months of Frank Morgan's life, getting mentored by him, talking to him every day on the phone. He was like my grandpa. And at that point, he was clean, and he was just the most beautiful spirit and mentor. And I just loved him so much. And I still feel him everywhere, as I do with Lee and Phil. It's been a tough year. It's been tough. Unfortunately, Lee's death was also in part with COVID, so it's been tough. He passed a few years ago. He was 92 years old. But with Frank, it's like we would talk, we'd play Monk songs, we played Charlie Parker songs, and then after he would talk about life, and he would say, if he said, my one goal when I play my set is for somebody to cry while listening to my ballad. And he's like, if somebody cried and listening to my ballad, I did my job right. And it was like, he wasn't talking about if I could just play at 250 BPM and all these notes and nail my technique, I did my job right. No, he was like, if I could touch somebody's heart and play them a ballad, and every time he played a ballad, I'd be in tears. Every time. And he used to tell me to practice. He's like, put your fingers closer to the pearls. You're moving them too much. You'll notice when you watch Charlie Parker, as we did in this live stream, he's barely moving his fingers. Also very interesting to look at his embouchure. I think his top lip was even a little bit kind of curved over, different than a lot of embouchures that I see. But he's not even moving his fingers much. So Frank Morgan would say to me, keep your fingers close to the pearls. And then he's like, I want you to practice playing a ballad as quiet as possible. He's like, that's what you should be practicing. And here's somebody who's playing Cherokee at 200 BPM. Just wailing. And at the end of the day, what did he feel like was a successful concert? Touching one person's heart and making them cry. And I was like, my God, if that's what a master is telling me, and we're talking about the beauty of playing a beautiful ballad, I was like, I was just learning so much in that moment. And he'd talk about his time in prison. He'd talk about playing his life through the horn. And I'm so grateful for those moments because, along with learning technique and learning from the records, I had the experience to actually be with my mentors who were telling me about what every note meant to them. I remember having conversations with Lee Konitz from an early age. I was 13 years old, and oh my God, I was absolutely in love with Lee Konitz's playing. The first time that I heard Tristano's music, the first time I heard the track Wow, my jaw was on the ground. Do any of you know that Tristano song Wow? If you don't, gotta check it out. It's insane. Warren Marsh and Lee Konitz playing these lines. I had never heard anything like that in my life. And I was like, I got to figure out what they're, I don't even know what this language is, right? Because I was listening to bebop. And so then I started, I got the incredible opportunity to meet Lee, who became a mentor of mine. And he used to call our lessons. He never taught, and he wouldn't have me study with him. He said, these are going to be musical discussions. And I'd hang out in his apartment, and he was a very quirky guy, very eccentric. And we'd play duets together. And then we'd write to each other. We were pen pals, like literally write snail mail. I have, thanks to my parents, they have this very special box of all of our correspondence via mail that they've held on to. And Lee would say to me, why did you play the note like that with a bend? I think that's schmaltzy. And then he's like, let's define what schmaltzy and that bend means. I mean, I'd never even thought of music that way before. Like, I was doing habitual playing, maybe bending into lines, doing certain things the same way I usually do, and never thinking about them. And suddenly, he was like dissecting everything with me. You're welcome, Zach. He was like, what does it mean to play a bend? Why is that? It feels schmaltzy. How can you do it without that? What does it mean to add vibrato there? And it was like, we literally went into discussion mode, and I had such a different experience learning with him than I did with Frank Morgan or Phil Woods. And Phil Woods taught me so much, mainly sonically. It was really incredible. This live stream had me just go down a rabbit hole thinking about all my mentors and how many gifts they gave me, and how lucky I am and to have studied with them and what they saw in me and wanted to champion, me and really helped me grow, because what I've learned and what I'm seeing in these live streams that I just had with these great masters, it's like music is this, we pass it down and we continue to communicate with each other through what we learn. And so in my time with Phil Woods, we were touring the world together, and he'd come into my dressing room and he'd just play a line. He'd be like, something, and he'd be like, got it? And then I'd like try to play it back, and then he'd like leave before I could finish it. And then I'd say to him like, well, can you play it again? He's like, nope, that was it. So it was like this golden nugget, right? Like this golden nugget. It wasn't on YouTube. I couldn't rewind it and replay it. It wasn't on a podcast. It was in the moment, in real life. And that's, honestly, he gave me so many of those moments, and Phil Wood's stories were so great. I mean, he'd talk about Charlie Parker. He'd talk about his time with Dizzy Gillespie. We'd be eating schnitzel together in Germany, having just these deep, deep conversations. He's riding in the van on the front seat. My dad's driving the car. My band's in the van. So many pinch me moments. Like, are you kidding me? Phil Woods is here playing music with us, giving me snippets of these just gold mines. How lucky am I? That's incredible. And then walking into my dressing room and just playing a few lines and then saying, oh, nope, that was it. He actually did that to my band too. At one point, we were playing a standard, and he was like, you guys got to play the verse to that. And like nobody knew it. And then he said, and it was a disaster on stage. And he called us out in front of the whole audience. It was so embarrassing. It's such, but you learn, right? And so then my whole band got together that night and we learned the verse. And then we came back the next day and we said to Phil, can we play that song? And he said, nope, that was yesterday. Today's today. So we didn't even get a chance to redeem ourselves. There was one time that my pianist was accompanying Phil playing a ballad, and Phil literally yelled at him in front of an audience, and he said, don't lead to Doug. Which just meant Doug was like, it's a very fine line when you're accompanying a singer or a player, but Doug was pushing along the chords, and Phil was like, don't lead. And they started over in front of an audience. And so, I'm just reminded of all these incredible memories of my mentors, and I think the rest of the day I'm just going to be thinking about that and the incredible legacy of Charlie Parker. And I just came on for a really quick live stream, and I felt inspired. I wanted to share with you. It's super cool that a bunch of you are still just tuned in, and I'm going to send the link share the link to this 90-second Why Charlie Parker celebration happening next Saturday. I also just briefly want to tell you, any of you who don't know, I'm going to be doing some teaching this coming Saturday on the 22nd. I'm doing my first ever workshop full day. So you can come hang and learn for the full day. I'm doing this with my buddy Leo P. We are teaching beginners, intermediate, and advanced players. You can find a link and grab your day pass or a la carte passes on my Instagram. I'll also leave it on YouTube, but it's already up on link in bio on my Instagram. And we're going to be doing Improv 1 for anyone who's brand new to improvising. We're going to go through blues scales, pentatonic scales, major, minor, show you some things that you can start using right away so you can start to improvise. We're going to be doing saxophone techniques for our intermediate advanced friends, going over growling, bending, glissandos, power chords, super cool stuff that you can do on the sax, on all the saxes. And then we're going to have an advanced class for our advanced players, which all are welcome to even the advanced class. If you're trying to like level up your stuff and you want to like sit in, and listen, you're going to get the replay video. You'll get the PDFs. You'll get the private playlist after the fact too. So you can always grow into this stuff. The advanced class is going to be advanced tricks. So really cool things like sounds that you can add and make. This is a sound that my mentor Phil Woods used a lot and taught me. The toggling sound. We're going to go over that. And also really cool things like, and we got some chromatic tremolo stuff. We got some toggling. Leo's going to teach a lot of cool sounds that he's been using. Some of the sounds that I've developed are mirrored after like an electric guitar playing on the high end. So they're really cool. We call them tricks, but they're things that you can add into your playing to just add so much more flav at any given moment. So anyway, sign up for that. It's happening in just a couple of days. This is the very first time that we are doing a all-day workshop format, and all attendees are also going to get an invite to a virtual jam session, which we're going to do at the end, and we'll do a Q&A as well to go deeper into this stuff. We really want you to put it into play, so it's just fun to learn all these techniques, and at the end of the day, we're just going to jam it out, because it's important to get your axe out and actually play this stuff, because if you learn anything, even if you just play one thing and get the concept and get the momentum going, ball rolling, it's fantastic. So link in my bio for Instagram if you want to join us. A lot of people are grabbing day passes. It's cheaper. If you want to attend at least 2 classes with us, then it's just cheaper to get the day pass and just hang for the day. And man, it's so cool. Antonio Hart was on this live stream. Antonio, you're still there? Maybe he could jump in live, and oh gosh, I see those hearts. If he wanted to jump in on this Instagram live, we'll have to do that in the future. That would be super, super cool. Love to have him on. Would you guys love to see Antonio Hart on? Yeah. Well, he peeped in really quickly on my Instagram. So anyways, really quick, everybody, I got to jump off because I got another meeting. It's been like five consecutive Zoom meetings, interviews, sound checks. But I hope you're doing well. I'm sending all my love to you. Come join us on Saturday. It's going to be awesome. And you'll hear more from me soon. But until then, rock that Charlie Parker, y'all. Remember, Charlie Parker 100th birthday. And while you're doing that, too, just give a little celebratory dance for the 100th birthday of also the 19th Amendment and women's right to vote. I'm not smushing them together. I'm just saying there's a lot of like awesome celebrations that need to be had for the Centennial birthday. That is a big one, you guys, 100 years. So sending lots of love your way, and we'll talk soon. All right. Peace out, everybody. Bye, IG. And YouTube and Facebook fam, much love to you. We'll talk soon. Ciao, everyone.